Hey there, folks. Welcome to Spectrum Pulse. We talk about music, movies, art, and culture. And I can't help but feel like this might be a little bit weird. A collection of clips from when I was on vacation, along with a couple that are back here, some recent albums, and some throwbacks that I'm desperately trying to get through that backlog that never seems to end. But enough wasting time. Let's get on the pulse. So before we go any further, if you would like to like and subscribe, I would be extremely grateful. These sort of compilation episodes, they never quite get the spread you're hoping for, even with some of the bigger names and some of the more, let's call them contentious opinions. But hey, if you want to spread it, I'd be happy to see it. Beyond that, though, I've got 8 projects on the docket. Let's get started with...
From Arcade Fire, We. Yeah, this was another one that came and went really fast, where if you don't remember my Reflector or Everything Now reviews, you might be surprised that this is kind of late. And yes, it is better than Everything Now, but it's still a frail, synth-heavy, and portentous mix cribbing openly from Radiohead, especially in the acoustics, thank Nigel Godrich on the production. And for every attempt at cinematic bombast, really only Lightning 1 and 2 connect as B-tier Bleachers cast-offs, albeit some terrific ones. It's kind of exasperating with this project. The production can be striking. There are melodic fragments that evoke the grandeur of Funeral and The Suburbs, but wonky synths, weak falsettos, and the poor man's Josh Tillman-esque lyrics exploring apocalypse and modern existential emptiness, they feel kind of shallow, honestly outright embarrassing in points. And yet, I don't know, the driving, desperate earnestness might be enough to just save it for me. Definitely corny, but I won't call this bad.
From Chat Pile, God's Country. Alright, noise rock / sludge metal debut out of Oklahoma, with smatterings of post-punk and death metal with some parallels to that last Daughters album, maybe a welcome replacement. The riffs and grooves are absolutely filthy off the clanking percussion, but balance out to some actual tunes to match their frontman's spoken word and desperate howls. They're less malevolent, more struggling to claw out of the decaying late capitalist muck, rife with addiction, depression, gun violence, and then succumbing to your own inner demons to face a grisly end trapped in at every angle. And yet something isn't quite working for me. The tempos never quite create that sense of urgency, the strained vocals play more for theatricality than reality, and it never quite feels as revolutionary as it should. This is more of a wallow. It's vivid and definitely cathartic in its downward spiral, but limited as such. Ergo, pretty damn good, just not quite great.
From Redveil, Learn to Swim. I should have just checked my IG DMs back in April. I could have covered this months ago. Anyway, Redveil is a Maryland rapper, broke out in 2020, paralleling the lo-fi fragmentation of Earl Sweatshirt or Mike, but with self-produced melodic sensibilities closer to Tyler the Creator or Quelle Chris. But there's a leap with this album. The jazz and soul-inflected samples are way more robust, the mixing is way more consistent, and there's even hooks, compositional structure, and it allows Redveil to both rap and sing, an ongoing evolution in a lot of choppy waters that's integral to the aspirational lyrics and themes, going beyond just rap capitalism and street violence, which has left a lot of his peers stranded. It's patient, yet playful, and reflective enough to get back to family while planning his freedom. It's still a little bit fragmented, it could cut a little bit deeper for this style, but it might be the most this style has clicked for me to date. Terrific album, check it out. From American Aquarium, Chicamacomico. For as much as I've praised BJ Barham's project in the past, I think some might be wondering why I'm so late to this. Well, it's why this has slid under the radar for a lot of folks. By American Aquarium standards, it's easily the most middle-aged, domestic, neo-traditional country album they've released in years. Now, that doesn't mean that the tearjerkers aren't here. He grapples with miscarriage, death in the family and friends, and fracturing long-term relationships with the sort of homespun detail that really helps them stick out, the clear album highlights for me, but they're also alongside more settled, chipper, family-oriented songs that can feel kinda schmaltzy, a little bit more mature, not quite as interesting. Coupled with some of Brad Cook's competently smooth but not exceptional production, it's BJ Barham now very much in a comfort zone. For better or for worse, but hell, still great album. Check it out.
From Ingrid Andress, Good Person. Ingrid Andress has such promise in 2020, near Kelsey Ballerini's pop country lane, but with more mature, organic elegance and nuance. And yet with this, It feels deliberately targeted at a younger pop audience, with more programmed percussion, more synthetic vocal mixes, far less consistent mixing and mastering, and even Andress's more girlish vocal lines and inflections. And yet, even as her writing is trying to play for that audience, go younger, songs like Yearbook around her parents' faded relationship, growing apart from a partner on Seeing Someone Else, the breakup of No Choice, and Opening Up to Trust Again on Feel Like This, they reflect a world-weary wisdom that I did initially find so charming. Now it just feels oddly dated and disjointed with the execution. A similar arc to Carly Pearce's 29 written in stone, just with nowhere near the gravitas. I mean, it's still good, there's potential, but I did expect more. From Muse, Will of the People. Okay, let's get real. Muse hasn't made consistently good music in about a decade, and I like The Second Law, but Will of the People might be their worst album yet, marrying the slapdash Queen imitations of The Second Law to incoherent lyrics that like the aesthetics of liberatory populism, but lean on cheap, cynical deconstruction instead of taking any real stand. The Game of Thrones finale of modern self-produced arena rock. Now look, Muse doesn't have to be deep with their huge anthemic hooks and fun, outrageous theatricality. But I'm sorry, this is just bad camp. From the sloppy sequencing and atrocious bass and drum production to so many disasters of tonal juxtaposition that after a joyous attempt at escape on the album highlight Euphoria, we get the closer, the nihilistic and deeply stupid note of we are fucking fucked. Revolution without cause, solution, or anything to say. And it's not worth your time.
From Panic at the Disco, Viva Las Vengeance. I was planning for a longer review, but at this point neither Brendan Urie nor this album are worth my time. It feels like the Queen jukebox musical We Will Rock You in the cheaply plastic production, the atrocious synth mixing, and the vocal harmonies, but minus the bass lines, competent drum work, and hooks, delivering the most sanitized and sexless Queen imitation I have ever heard. Never has it been more obvious that this is a Brendan Urie solo work at his screechiest, but also weirdly detached. But he's also doubling down on the overwritten, self-referential music industry existential emptiness as his primary theme, and with potshots taken at ex-Panic members and Maroon 5-esque faux rockstar preening, it's so self-aggrandizing, but it's also so joyless and hollow. And I guess the Josh Ramsey show this year, the debate's now over. Trash. All the way down. From Demi Lovato, holy fuck. I think we've been waiting for this since the late 2000s. We already knew about Demi's alternative streak, so now that they've finally delivered at the intersection between Hole, Garbage, The Pretty Reckless, and Bring Me the Horizon, we finally have proof that Demi's always made the most sense in snarled, howling alternative rock, with raw vocal firepower and reclaiming the darker edges of their sexuality in the face of modern stardom. Shame the mix was compressed and processed to an exhausting, unholy degree. Staying with Oak was a mistake, and once again, production prevents Demi from being way better than they can be. And given that this album doesn't really modulate much over 16 songs, it can stray away from the personal, visceral storytelling towards something more cliched and general. It gets oppressively shrill very fast with its underpowered grooves and so much clipping. So yeah, it's flawed, but easily their best in years. Good stuff.
So yeah, once again, if you'd like to like and subscribe, I would be extremely grateful. Please share, please comment, find any way to boost this in some sort of YouTube's algorithm. We have to hope that somebody watches this eventually. Beyond that, though, anything else I can do to improve my presentation, I'm all ears. If you guys want to get albums on my schedule, just support the channel beyond my merch down below, or hell, just want to argue with me directly on Discord, link to my Patreon is right over there. Please don't feel obligated. I understand it's tough times right now, but if you want to get involved, the option is available. Till then, I'm Mark. You're watching On the Pulse on Spectrum Pulse, and I'll see you next time.